You're listening to the weekly Parsha podcast recorded with Hashem's never-ending assistance in Ramat Beit Shemesh Israel 5776, 2015. This week's Parsha is Parsha's Miketz. We have the continuation of the story with Yosef and his brothers, and we have the beginning of the fulfillment of Yosef's dream. Yosef dreamt that his brothers would bow down to him, that they would come to him, they would be subservient to him in regards to the alumais, the sheaves of wheat, and indeed they came. And they became subservient, they bowed down to him in regards to food. He provided them with their needs. And in the process of this whole story and this whole chain of events, the Torah tells us about the interaction that Yosef has with his brothers. The commentaries or sages explain that part of what Yosef was trying to do with them was to guide them, to help them see the mistake that they had made, to create a tikkun, rectification of it, to also bring about, as the Meforshim say, the completion of the fulfillment of the dreams, such that all the brothers would bow down to him, including his brother Benjamin. And the thing that I really would like to focus in on in this story, in this particular chapter of the story, because we're really in the middle of the story, we don't get the completion until next week, but the idea I want to focus in on is the idea that the brothers have a recognition very quickly that the story, the way that it's unfolding, that which is occurring to them, is a result of something that they did in the past, is a result of their selling of their brother, selling Yosef down into slavery. And the pasuk tells us that the realization comes, if we look at it carefully, the realization comes at an interesting point in the story. Yosef has accused his brothers of being spies. And the brothers say, no, we're not spies. We are 12 brothers. One is still back with his father. One of them is missing. But we're not spies. We're just 10 brothers, the sons of one person. So Yosef responds, and I'm going to read the verses inside in chapter 42, verse 15. Bezoisti bachenu. Yosef says, this is how I'm going to test you. He says, I swear by Pharaoh that you won't leave here. Unless your younger brother comes and shows himself here. First Yosef says, send off one person. He'll go and he'll bring back one of you, this brother that you speak about. And the rest of you will be incarcerated. And in this way, we'll be able to test your words. If the truth is with you, and if not, I swear by Pharaoh that you are spies. The verse tells us that he put them into incarceration for 3 days. And then at the end of the 3 days, Joseph says to them, I changed my mind. On the third day he says, instead, this is what you need to do if you want to live. And you should know that I fear God. And the Meforshim explained that his statement of I fear God is a statement of, obviously you have big families, you are 10 people, you need to be able to provide for your families, so I'm going to send you back. I'm going to send all of you back, except for one, with enough food to provide for your families. Im keinim atem, Yosef continues and says, if you are being honest, so one of the brothers, one of you, is going to be incarcerated alone. And you go and bring the food for your families. Your younger brother, I want you to bring him along with you, bring him back to me. I'll see the truth of your words, and then you won't die. And that's what they did. Now what's interesting here is the next pasuk. The next verse tells us, that one said to the other, each one said to his brother, they started to talk to each other. They didn't know that Yosef understood them because Yosef was speaking to them in Egyptian. And there was a translator between them, as the verse tells us. But they were speaking to each other and they were saying, we are guilty. We saw our brother, they're referencing Yosef. We saw his pain. He was pleading with us and we didn't listen. That's why this difficult situation is occurring to us. Reuven answers them. He responds, Reuven says, I told you, do not sin against the boy. Do not sin against him. And you didn't listen. Reuven confirms what they're saying and he says that now God is demanding of us of his blood, meaning all of this is occurring as a direct result of our sin with Mechiras Yosef in selling our brother, in selling Joseph. And the Torah continues and tells us how Yosef heard this and he turns away and he cries. He becomes very emotional. But in reading these verses, I can't help but question. It's very strange. The strange thing is that they are put in jail for 3 days. Right away, they're incarcerated. And then they come out of jail, and Yosef says to them, I'm sending you all back home, and except for one person. And all of a sudden, they wake up. It's like, well, why didn't they wake up the first time? This question is actually asked by the Or HaChaim. I'm not going to get into his answer, but certainly it's an important question to ask. Why are they all of a sudden waking up to the fact that this is connected to the sin of Yosef, to selling Yosef, only after they're incarcerated for 3 days? They didn't think about it they didn't think about it at the beginning of the story. They only notice at the end, as they're being sent off and Shimon is being placed in jail alone. At that moment, at that point, something changes in their awareness. They start to say, hey, this must be because of the fact that we did that great sin. What changed? What happened here? Why is that wake-up call? Why are they waking up to the wake-up call, so to speak, only after a few days? Why don't they make that comment right away? So, to try to understand this, I want to share with you something that actually just happened to me over the last few days. I'm a little bit embarrassed about this story, but I feel like there's a powerful message within this story, within this occurrence that happened to me just now, that I think really explains what's going on here and is a powerful lesson in experiencing humiliation, experiencing difficulty and challenges. 2 nights ago, I was on my way to Jerusalem, to Yerushalayim, in order to sing at a Mesibat Chanukah, at a party for the Chanukah, for the celebration, for a yeshiva in Yerushalayim called Torah Shraga. And I brought my son with me. We were driving. My son was going to sing with me. He did sing with me. And as we pulled out of Ramat Beit Shemesh, I was in a car accident. And I was responsible. I was not focused on the road completely. I was a little distracted at the moment. Car in front of me slowed down. I back-ended the car in front of me. The car I was driving, the front of it got smashed. The back of his car was smashed. Thank God I was okay. My son was okay. We were just a little bit shaken up. The people in front of me also, thank God they were okay. But we were really shaken up. My son was more shaken up than me, interestingly. He was more aware of what had been going on. I had been distracted for the moment. And so he felt like, he felt the trauma of it. And I felt more of a guilt, a humiliation over the fact that I was distracted from the road for the moment and I caused this accident. One of the challenges of this situation was that this was a rented car, and so it had full insurance. Thank God, Baruch Hashem, it had full insurance, and so I didn't really have to pay anything. I had paid for the insurance, and I caused this damage, but it felt very, I felt like I had a lack of closure on it. I did something wrong, and yet I didn't have really a way to do a tikkun, to do a rectification of it. I also didn't have a full sense of the danger that had occurred. Or was I really in mortal danger? Did I do something that I could have gotten killed? I could have killed someone else. I definitely had the sense that I could have hurt someone else. I personally nothing happened to me. My son, we were okay. At least physically we were okay. He definitely had this challenging situation, the emotional factor of it, but the physical factor of it didn't seem to be so great. I had a discussion with my Rav this morning and with the rabbi of my shul as to whether or not I need to make a Birchas HaGoimel. When a person is in a life-threatening situation, so there's an obligation to say a special blessing to thank God that the person was saved. And I described to him the situation. I said we weren't moving that fast. The car in front of us was moving about the same speed as us. And he said to me, he's like, if he was going 30 kilometers an hour and I was going 40 kilometers an hour, so the impact speed was about 10 kilometers an hour. It wasn't a major, it could have been that it wasn't a major danger. And then I mentioned that the front end of the car became an accordion, or at least to a certain extent it did. The car was still functioning right afterwards, not so well, but it was still drivable. And but he said, look, if the front of the car got smashed in, so that means that the front of the car really saved you. And you should indeed say a Birkas HaGoimel. You should indeed say this blessing, thanking God for sparing your life. I felt like, as I heard this, as my rabbi said this to me, it gave me more of an opportunity to have closure on the incident. Because there's a recognition all of a sudden that, hey, I was in mortal danger. I was indeed in danger. I did something irresponsible, and it could have caused great damage to myself, to my son, to someone else. And by saying a Birchas HaGoimel, by recognizing there's an obligation to thank God for saving my life, for preventing any major damage to happening to me physically and to someone else. In that statement, in that blessing, is a recognition of the fact that there was a danger that occurred, that it just brought it home to me. It brought it home to me. It didn't really completely register until I heard that. And I think that as we read the story of Yosef HaTzadik, of his brothers, their first interaction with Yosef, they didn't immediately, as I understand it, they didn't immediately register what was going on. It didn't completely penetrate to them that there was something that was happening. There was no recognition that they were in mortal danger. If you read the psukim and you read the verses, all Yosef says to them is, I'm putting you in jail because you are spies. He doesn't say anything about their lives. He doesn't say anything about the fact that their lives are on the line. That doesn't register for them at all. When they come out of jail, the verse says like this. This is in Pasuk Yuches, in verse 18. Vayomar lem Yosef bayom hashlishi. On the third day, he says to them, when they come out of jail, Zos asu v'chyu. Do this if you want to live. Do this if you want to live. Inherent in the statement of do this and you want to live is two things. First of all, you're in mortal danger right now. I'm accusing you of being spies. That's a fatal offense. If you are really spies and you're coming to search out ways to penetrate into Egypt in order to do something because you're from a different country, a different nationality, you should know that you're liable for death. That's one aspect of it. Another aspect of it is, and this is what spoke to them perhaps, that you have done something to be chayav misa. You've done something which makes you liable for death. You don't realize that you are liable for death for some action. All of a sudden they're hearing liable for death, liable for death. What did we do to be liable for death? Again, in verse 20, he says, bring your younger brother to you, then I'll know the truth of your words, and you will not die. Meaning, again, he was saying to them, if you want to get out of here clean without being liable for death, you need to know that you need to bring this younger brother of yours, but you are liable for death. He didn't say anything about death until now. And then it's immediately after he says this, that's when they say to each other, we've done something wrong to be liable for death. They start to hear the words liable for death. I did something which was a close call. I did something where I almost killed somebody. The brothers realized, and I'm realizing myself, personally, I could have hurt somebody. I could have killed myself. I could have caused death to somebody who I love, who is dear to me. I could have caused death to someone else with my carelessness, with my irresponsibility. And even more so, here they are coming into Egypt, and they need to take care of their families. They came down here to get food, to provide for their families. And here they are, not only are they in mortal danger because of something that they've done in the past, spiritually, that they recognize now, but their very families, the very future of the Jewish people, the very future of the entire world is at stake. The very future of Klal Yisrael is at stake. Because if they don't bring back the food, their families could die. So what's hitting them is a recognition that mistake that they made with Yosef, that mistake that they made to sell him, they didn't listen as he pleaded with them. And Reuven, an amazing thing that the Meforshim say, Reuven says to them, I told you, don't sin against the child. Don't sin against this boy. The things that he was doing, the dreams that he was telling us, the things that have aroused our hatred, our animosity, it was all coming because he was a boy. He was just a child. And you didn't listen. The mistake that we made was a mortal mistake. We have endangered ourselves. We've endangered our children. We've endangered our family. We've endangered the Jewish people. We've endangered the world with our mistake. Yes, the mistakes that we make have far-reaching ramifications. For me personally, what just happened to me, this story, this accident that occurred to me, it brought home to me. It's like, yeah, I've been distracted on the road before, but thank God, it's always been okay. I've never gotten into an accident. I've been driving safely for 20 years. I've never been in an accident before. And for me to have that recognition, and I had a discussion with my father as well about this, for it's a recognition that, hey, I'm taking my life into my hands. I have to be so careful. I'm taking my family's life into my hands. There's a responsibility that I have. And it's true on a simple level, on a physical level. When I get in the car and I'm driving around, I'm responsible for those around me. And others are responsible for me as well. I'm putting my life in the hands of other people when I drive out in my car. But also on a spiritual level, if I'm not being spiritually who I need to be, I'm affecting all of those around me. I'm affecting my family. I'm affecting my children. I'm affecting Klal Yisrael. I need to know that I have a responsibility. I think that's a central theme in the story of Yosef. The central theme is that every single Jew has a responsibility for every single other Jew. I have a responsibility toward myself, and what I do affects all of those around me, both in a spiritual sense and in a physical sense. And I need to take that responsibility so seriously. And I want to extend that even further and talk about the idea of, if I have a talent, let's say, if I have a spiritual ability, I have an ability to inspire others, whether it's through speaking, saying a Dvar Torah, it's at my family, it's my children, or inspiring them to say what they have heard, listening to what they have heard, spiritual ideas. If I have the ability to inspire people that way, if I have the ability, let's say I have a talent in art or singing, or there's some myriad ways, different ways that I can inspire others, that I have, Hashem is shining through me, that I have a chance to inspire others. If I don't use that ability, if I don't share that with others, if I'm not willing to take risks in order to give that, to share that with others, to inspire others, I'm not just affecting myself. I'm not just endangering myself, I'm endangering others. And another point, which is within this idea, is that sometimes it's possible for me to make my willingness to share with others, to inspire others, dependent on some selfish factor. I will only share my Dvar Torah at the table, let's say, if people listen to me, if everyone gives me their complete rapt attention. I will only share my music with people if I sell 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 copies of my album. I will only share if I get 1 million hits on my video. I'm talking for myself. That's the Yetzer Hara. That's how the selfishness comes in. I'm not willing to take a risk. Am I willing to take a risk in sharing what I have? Am I willing to take that risk? And if I'm not, so I'm withholding from myself and I'm withholding from everyone. The point is that there's a responsibility that I have on a spiritual level, on a physical level, that I have to take seriously. And sometimes Hashem will give me a wake-up call, and I won't get it right away. It won't register right away, and it will take the statement of somebody else that, hey, this is your life. This is your life. You risked your life. You did something irresponsible that risked your life. The brothers saw that. I saw that. Each and every one of us has to know that our life is not just a physical life, there's a spiritual life. There's a life that we have which is sharing with others godliness. There's a life that we have which is inspiring others, inspiring ourselves. And we have to be able to do that. We have to recognize that that's what it means to really be alive. V'lo samusu. We can't give up our lives. Zoisasu v'chiyu. This is what you need to do in order to live. You have to recognize that your life is at stake here. That the distractions, the things that take us away from our focus, it's so easy to lose focus, to lose the opportunities that are there in front of us for us to imbue within our lives spirituality, to share that spirituality with others, to do things in our lives that are real accomplishments on a spiritual level, that really bring God into the world. I want to bless you, and please bless me back. Hashem should help us to be able to recognize that this is our life. This is what we need to do to live. And sometimes there's a wake-up call that's necessary, and sometimes it's enough to hear it from someone else. Hashem should help us to recognize, especially during this time of Hanukkah, when we're lighting up those menorahs, we have a chance to show the light of the menorah is the light of our souls. It's the light of Hashem in the world. It's the recognition that Hashem is there with us in everything. And we have an opportunity at every second to live. Not to die, but to live. And to live not just for ourselves, but for our families and for all of Am Yisrael, for all of the Jewish people, and for all of the world. So I bless you, and please bless me back. Hashem should help us to be able to light up that light, to recognize what it is that we need to do in order to really live. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful Shabbos. This podcast was made possible through the gracious donations of listeners like you. For more podcasts like this, please visit www.arigoldwag.com or search on iTunes Ari Goldwag.